Bo has just this really unique set of talents. He understands the production world, he understands the online event world, and he's also just this incredible visual artist and marketing guru. Bo's unique combo of skills have given rise to his amazing perspective, especially during the pandemic, about what opportunities await and how creative people can pursue them. So, Bo, just so grateful to you. Thank you for being, so at the controls with me on this experience. And I would love for you to share a bit about some of the pivots and the ways that you've, rethought some of your services and events during the pandemic. And then we'll turn it over to you to welcome our next guest.
Well, here's what happened. For me personally, both of my options in life kind of went down the tubers with the great pangolin attack. In terms of entertainment stuff, shriveled up like a pecker in cold water. So did what else we got? My job, because I usually do design work, creative services work for artists and small businesses, and obviously that took a major hit. And a lot of people don't have money when coronavirus shows up, it turns out. So bouncing around, it was quickly, like I started something called Penguin Sessions right after 2 days after it was kicking in, the old pandemic, and had a crazy number of viewers, and it was a shit set. But, everyone was flooding to that really instantly. I started doing that for a bit, and quickly, you saw the numbers come through, and all the diagnosis of the social problem, and things were looking gnarly. I do a lot of work with Mike Gaines for Vau de Vire. We had stuff in the works there. With Airship Works, we were planning a big thing for Burning Man, for instance, et cetera, and it just obviously crumbled. So my whole take on that is, rather than spend any more time than necessary worrying about the problem, is you start trying to find the solutions to it, right? So Mike Gaines, very similarly minded. So that instantly went. We did 2 big shows, Vau de Vire. The first one did really well. The second one didn't do as well because, as this thing is gone, that whole graph is pulled down by gravity. So, everybody flooded to it. It gets overwhelming, the whole Zoom life. And ultimately, it doesn't. I think this is plain as day at this point. And there were guesses as to this being different potentially down the road, but it doesn't substitute. There is no substitute for being around people and in person doing your thing, right? So that's what it is, and what it can be is the bigger question and the better solution. It's like, let's take all this stuff. I taught myself how to edit film for a movie that we put together for Halloween, a children's movie with Airship Works. So for myself, there's another opportunity that'll open up from that. Pushing boundaries, etc., trying to figure out what's what. And for me, it's been about kind of preparing for what kind of the rollout of normalcy, I guess, so we can start doing these hybrid events and ultimately get crowds back into places down the road. But what this has opened up is the entire world is now familiar with Zoom and Zoom, and other mechanisms for broadcasting. Everybody in this event can benefit from that from a business perspective. And
and we didn't have to fly any speakers in for today's event.
That's the whole thing.
Took we had to figure out a lot of technical cues, but we didn't have to figure out on the ground logistics, which is really kind of interesting in the events world.
So I think, Vau de Vire's got some cool stuff in the works. The stuff I've been working on with Airship Works, Tom Sweeney is my partner on that one. They're all fueled right now by the possibility of building an audience as best we can with all this online bullshit, and then purveying that into a situation where we can work a hybrid business model for doing our stuff. And also from a social standpoint, give people an opportunity to tap into shows that they can't attend in real time. And that was always a possibility, but it was never forced on people until now. So it's, I mean, the opportunity's huge, especially if we get a little speakeasy action going after everything's locked up and a shit ton of pregnancies. Who knows what's going to happen?
What?
The second wave. Yeah, it's like after
Bo
war.
has been up since before 6 a.m.
It's like
Pacific Standard Time.
It's
Helping
like-
us with tech challenges.
It's
Hence
like
the
after a war.
pregnancy comment.
After a war, there's a big burst in births. That's how it works.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
Baby boomers. Yeah, I'm not going to have sex with anybody.
You heard it here, ladies and
So take
gentlemen.
that. Anyways, so I think, am I supposed to say his name yet? Who's coming up?
Well, I just want to go back to a comment that you just made. So Adam Theis will
take
be
it
our
back.
next guest, and we'll show a video, and then you and Adam can chat some more. But one of the
Great.
things, Adam was actually one of the first folks that I called and asked to be a part of this, because I've always been a super fan of Jazz Mafia. And Adam, even though I'm pretty sure he had no idea who I was, most of the times I went to his show, he always was like really present and really engaged. And I think he has an amazing knack. A lot of really brilliant musical artists don't really necessarily have the like glad handing thing. And Adam manages to have this combo of both being extremely innovative as an artist and a director, and also really engaging as a band leader and as a public face. And one of the things I've found so intriguing was that, like you were talking about, the opportunities that he experienced were really around engaging his audiences in different ways. And you guys will chat more about that. But we love you, Bo. You're such an amazing
Love you too.
partner.
Likewise.
And folks, if you like the look and feel of the website that we had for this event and the logos and visual assets, Bo is definitely available for hire. And we could come as a pair. We could come as a trio with Armageddon Beach Party. Sky's the limit. So we're here to serve your needs. And now we're going to see the work of the fabulous Adam from Jazz Mafia. And he told me that he was going to create a special video for this. And then it got closer and closer to the event, and I hadn't gotten it. And then I pushed him to the limit, and then he ended up creating the most amazing video. I think it's so cute and wonderful and playful. So let's roll it, and then you guys can chat.
Hello? A 9-piece band? There's no way I can get that many musicians together in these crazy times. How about this?
Hey, Adam,
Yo.
you think if you and Shayna, if either one of you were a crappy musician, you'd still like each other?
As long as we were the same amount of crappy.
Crap.
Sometimes I wish that it was like that, just it could be like,
Well, I mean,
normal
there's
people,
ways. There's ways to get there.
not talk about music at dinner. Like we're at a nice dinner and it's like find ourselves talking about who should we hire for this thing coming up.
Right. You just got to drop it. I'll come in there and just say, hey, we got to stop right now.
It's like a little alarm that goes off. It's an app.
Dang, 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 dang. Shayna, by the way, everybody, is Adam's wife. She was playing the violin on that piece. Nice work on that. Self-replicator. Hey, so let's cut right to it. Well, Adam and I know each other for a long time through the music scene. Played some stuff in collusion with Gooferman and with, I think, Soil Dove, or most recently, right?
Yeah.
And I've been following Jazz Mafia and that whole evolution across the years, and it's always been brilliant. So thank you for bringing that to San Francisco. That's been
Welcome.
like steadfast, which you don't see much of. So you had a big, you guys jumped right on it as soon as it came through from what I saw. How did that come about? Was it a group effort, like a crisis meeting? We've got an issue. What are we going to do with this? Or
Yeah. So we had kind of already had a plan that didn't go completely opposed to the way that the year worked out. So that was kind of nice. We weren't doing a lot of touring or we were doing a lot of putting a lot of energy into things besides live performance, actually. And so we were like, well, at least we can focus on this this album we were going to work on. We had started the basic planning in like December and some in January for an election 2020 election themed album, something to kind of bring awareness to the different issues and kind of in micro local levels and also in the national levels, because there was a really important national election in 2020 that we've all forgotten about by now. But so that was going to be a recording project with, dozens of musicians from all over the country or international doing that. So that works fine in a pandemic, turns out. But when we started digging into that, other things changed our course of what we were going to be focusing on. We ended up kind of reordering things, but that was one big thing that worked out nicely. But as soon as the pandemic hit, the thing that we jumped into first was trying to get emergency funding happening for artists. And we just started thinking about people we knew, organizations we knew, and trying to talk people into ponying up some money for emergency funding, like a mini grant program is what it was. And so, yeah, it was just constantly like these little things like that. Like, okay, this is what we're going to do for these 2 weeks. And there was things that were continuing through it, but there was also just like you said, trying anything we could. But that was the first thing. And it felt really good to just put that out there. Like, look, artists really need help. We don't like begging for money. We don't do a lot of like fundraisers and GoFundMe's and stuff, but like this right now, this might be the most if you're ever going to give money to an artist, just like outright, this would be the time to do it possibly. So anyway, yeah.
So what was the turnaround then with your audience in terms of when you were obviously unable and still are to do live shows for the most part? And Jazz Mafia, so everyone knows, has done a bunch of shows out in different locations, right? And filmed them similar to what we just saw, and made use of the time, from what I've seen, in very specifically great ways. How has your audience been in that respect in terms of kind of carrying along, supporting it, just to get a real world perspective on what that looks like?
Yeah. Well, we were kind of trying to just see, well, how are we going to get support from an audience in a non-live setting, pretty much. And Patreon is something that people had hit us up about for a few years. Hey, have you ever thought about Patreon? Hey, have you? And yes, we thought about it. And like, maybe we didn't have time, or maybe we didn't want to beg for money, like all those things. But I had seen some of my close friends using Patreon in ways that I thought were really classy. And it's like, look, if you're giving people something special, and you're not just begging for money or whatever. Like I feel more comfortable with that. Like I'm not throwing shade at anybody who just says, hey, I need money for an album, but I think some of these things are really cool where you get to bring people in and they get to experience something that they normally wouldn't get to experience if they go see your shows or read your mailing list, the typical content. So anyways, when the pandemic hit and after many months of seeing like, there's not going to be any normal gig life happening anytime soon. So we really need to figure some things out. So we did the Patreon, and that helped a lot because so in some ways it was really depressing because we weren't playing for thousands of people at, outside lands or these, festivals that we play at on a good weekend. Not that we do that stuff all the time, but like many times
weekends.
Yeah, or like Soil Dove.
Lots of them. Yeah.
And so, but on the other side of it, it's like kind of a quality, not quantity thing. It's distilling it down to like your key supporters. And so when we launched the Patreon, we were hoping for like 20 or 30 people, and we ended up getting to 100 pretty quickly, like in a month or two. And so it's not that many, but it's to know that those 100 people have your back as an artist, and to know that they will show up for you. That made a big difference in this time when you just have no direct connection with audience members. And I think a month after, at the same time we launched the Patreon, we launched our backyard Jazz Mafia Tuesday live stream. So it was kind of like, we're just going to go for it. And if it fails, it fails. And having those people there really pushed the live stream and pushed us to work really hard to, innovate or, to learn the ropes with that.
Right. Sorry, I keep looking back. I'm trying to look at the camera, so I look like I'm looking at you. After a year of this, I still don't. So with that in mind, what are you guys going to do? Like with this Tuesday's show that you guys instituted, and Heather, who's been on here, has just had Heather started a similar thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's a killer show, and neither of you probably would have done that without this situation, right? At least
it was like the Patreon thing. It was like, hey, have you ever thought of doing live stream? Hey, have you ever thought of doing 360 video? Hey, yeah, I've thought about a lot of things, and now we're doing them.
So what happens down the road? What are you gonna keep in terms of what you guys have forged as a path? Or I mean, what's the discussion on that about?
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. Definitely going to keep a virtual thing happening. Maybe not weekly, but I'm loving it. And if it's sustainable, for sure. I think would make that a lot more likely to keep happening is if we can find more of a national and international audience. It's like, why not, right? Like anyone in the world can watch. I feel like a majority of the people that are tuning in regularly are kind of like regional or West Coast or whatever, and that's cool. But when shows start happening again, they'll almost be competing against each other. It's you're like trying to get the same audience who's on your live stream to come see your live shows. So I think for it to be successful, that's going to be, and I heard, I think it was Megs earlier saying like this whole promoting virtual events is weird. It's like a strange thing to figure out. So it's not something that I don't think it's going to really have life if it's just focusing on a regional audience as much.
That's kind of actually the ultimate benefit, I think, of it, right? It's now opened the doors up to, well, I mean, it's a complicated issue because the social platforms like Facebook aren't so supportive anymore of helping us along with promotion. But the fact of the matter is, you guys have a new tool set to work with. How do you guys work that out in terms of teching the migration over?
Yeah, even for the live streams?
Yeah, and what have you done since?
We've been working with, almost since the beginning, we've been working with a longtime engineer that we've worked with in like Soil Dove or our Burning Man theme camp, a lot of our more ambitious events. His name's Brian Adorama, also known as Car Wash.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, and so Brian we'd been trying to figure it out before we started working with Brian on it, but he really has kind of gotten it up and running, and we have this flow, and we're just, he's cool with the constant, hey, what if we tried this? Hey, he's not complacent or anything like that. So he wants to innovate as well. So he's been killing it.
What have you guys run into in terms of real world complications with getting to where you're going right now? Outside
Well,
of the-
since so many of the things we're doing are outdoors, and there's just constant weather. Like I've never looked at the weather app as much in my life. You know, it's like just constantly, and I don't trust the weather, man. You know, it's like, well, it said it was 100% chance of sunny like all the last 10 days.
I
And
never cared about it until I started fulfilling my lifelong dream of being a teenage, or my teenage dream of being a snowboard bum. And then all of a sudden I started talking about powder. And like when people used to say that, I was like, what? And then all of a sudden I'm like, yo, it's going to be pow pow. We're going to be deep in pow when we're going down those hills. Yo, wait, but is it powder deep or is it just pow pow, pow pow? And then my friend was like, is it pow wow wee wow wow? I'm like, I have entered into a whole nother subculture. I thought I'd found the weirdest people, but the snowboard people, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, they're a whole nother breed. I definitely encourage exploration in that direction. And that is my my interjection to
I know, that was
transition
nice.
this
That was nice.
shred the
Wow,
gnar.
wow, wow.
Just shred
That
the
was an
gnar on
incredible
pow-pow.
transition.
Bum, ba-da-da-da, dun, dun, da-da-da-da. We're having our
Adam,
band
good
moment.
talking with you.
Yes, yes.
Good seeing you
Amazing
again.
chatting.
Thank you
It's really
so
cool
much,
to see my
Adam.
friends.
Give love to beautiful and talented Shayna.
For sure.
Thank you so much for making that really wonderful video and being such a force for beautiful and great music.
You're welcome. Thanks for inspiring us all, inspiring each other. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here for. So glad to be a part of it.
We're so grateful to you, Adam. Thank you.
Love.